These are a few quotes from Les Miserables, the novel by Victor Hugo. So long as there shall exist, by reason of law and custom, a social condemnation, which, in the face of civilization, artificially creates hells on earth, and complicates a destiny that is divine, which human fatality, so long as these three problems of the age, the degradation of man by poverty, the ruin of woman by starvation, and the dwarfing of childhood by physical and spiritual night, are not solved, so long as in certain regions social asphyxia shall be possible. In other words, and from a yet more extended point of view, so long as ignorance and misery remain on the earth, books like this cannot be useless. Be it true or false, what is said about men often has as much influence upon their lives, and especially upon their destinies, as what they do. There are many tongues to talk, but few heads to think. But whoever does attain to his ideal, I am not in the world to care for my life, but for souls. No one could say that the passage of that soul before his own, and the reflection of that grand conscience upon his own, had not had its effect upon his approach to perfection. The general pursued the emperor as if he wished to let him escape. Jean Valjean entered the galleys sobbing and shuddering. He went out hardened. He entered in despair. He went out sullen. What had happened was in his soul. Thus, during those 19 years of torture and slavery, did this soul rise and fall at the same time. Light entered on the one side, and darkness on the other. The peculiarity of punishment of this kind, in which what is pitiless, that is to say, what is brutalizing, predominates, is to transform little by little, by slow stupefactions, a man into an animal, sometimes into a wild beast. The beginning as well as the end of all his thoughts was hatred of human law, the hatred which, if be not checked in its growth by some providential event, becomes in a certain time hatred of society, then hatred of the human race, and then hatred of creation, and reveals itself by vague, brutal desire to injure some living being, it matters not who. The night was not very dark. There was a full moon across which large clouds were driving before the wind. This produced alternations of light and shade, out of doors eclipses and illuminations, and indoors a kind of twilight. This twilight enough to enable him to find his way. Changing was the passing clouds, resemble that sort of livid light which falls through the window of a dungeon before which men are passing. Napoleon, mighty somnambulist of a vanished dream. Waterloo was a battle of the first rank, won by a captain of the second. Would you realize what revolution is? Call it progress. And would you realize what progress is? Call it tomorrow. What is that to the infinite? He caught glimpses of everything, but saw nothing. We blame the church when it saturated with intrigues. We despise despise the spiritual when it is harshly austere to the temporal, but we honor everywhere the thoughtful man. We bow to the man who kneels. A face is a necessary to man. Woe to him who believes nothing. A man is not idle because he is absorbed in thought. There is a visible labor, and there is an invisible labor. To meditate is to labor, to think is to act. Folded arms work, closed hands perform. A gaze fixed on heaven is a toil. Thales remained motionless for 4 years. He founded philosophy. In our eyes, Cenobites are not idlers, nor is the recluse a sluggard. To think of the gloom is a serious thing. Was all invalidating Without at all invalidating what we have just said, we believe that perpetual remembrance of the tomb is proper for living. On this point, the priest and the philosopher agree. We must die. To mingle with one's life a certain preference of the sceptre is the law of the wise man, and it is the law of the ascetic. In this relation, the ascetic and the sage tend towards a common center. There is a material advancement. We desire it. There is also a moral grandeur. We hold fast to it. Unreflecting, headlong minds say, of what use are those motionless figures by the side of the mystery? What purpose do they serve? What do they effect? Alas! In the presence of that obscurity which surrounds us and awaits us, and not knowing what the vast dispersion of all things will do with us, we answer, there is perhaps no work more sublime than that which is accomplished by these souls, and we add, there is no labor perhaps more useful. Those who pray always unnecessary to those who never pray. In our view, the whole question is the amount of thought that is mingled with prayer. Leibniz praying is sometimes grand. Voltaire worshipping is sometimes beautiful. We are for religion against the religions. We are of those who believe in the pitifulness of orisons and the sublimity of prayer. My father was a humble and a heroic man who served the Republic and France gloriously, who was great in the greatest history that men have made, who lived a quarter of a century in camp, by day under grape and under balls, by night in the snow, in the mud, and in the rain, who captured colors, and who received 20 wounds, who died forgotten and abandoned, who had but one fault, that was in loving too dearly 2 ingrates, his country and me. A fire would cause a dawn, undoubtedly, but why not wait for the break of day?